Hey y'all, it's Lissa here. So I have the one and only Prince with me. Stop the cackle. He's just calling. The biggest thing that he wants to say is that he's laughing because of this whole woke culture and everything. He's like, it's not woke, it's aware. I mean, and I've been aware for years. Come on now, people. You know, he's really going on about that. He's just really laughing at this whole woke thing. He's like, no, I've been aware for years. And that kind of, he's really telling he's like, y'all understand, y'all need to wake up if you're not awake. Too many of y'all are asleep. Wake up. The masses, it's dirty. Wake up. Get aware. Don't get woke, get aware. That's really what he's driving home to me right now. He's really on this whole awake thing instead of woke. He's just shaking his head. He's kind of got a similar theme because I was kind of talking to him the same way that I was to George. And he's very anti-establishment. He's very anti-corporate. He's like, man, he goes, I make the rules. I'm nobody's slave. Y'all remember how that went back in the 90s. I'm nobody's slave. I make my music. I own my music. I own my property. It is mine. It is mine to decide. It is mine to share with the masses. If I choose to. I am in control of my intellectual property, of my music. I make my music. I decide how it is released. I decide what is released. I decide what's not released. Because if it's not up to how I want it to be, it's not going out. I may not be finished with it yet. Record companies are a scam. He's like, I did what I wanted to with the money. He goes, I made good money. I lived a good lifestyle and I liked the lifestyle. He said, but the music wasn't about the money. I made music the way that I wanted to, and that was what was the ultimate goal, was to make music on my terms that I liked, that I wanted to release and I wanted to put out there. Yeah, I had to be the slave, but I was finally able to break free. Nobody should have to sell their souls or compromise their beliefs for their art. They should be in control of their art. You should have total and creative control of your art. You should not have to be answering to people that have no idea on how your creative vision is or what you create and cultivate. They're only lining their pockets. They have no knowledge. They are ignorant. They're in it for greed. They're in it for the wrong reasons. Yes, I got paid really well for it. But there was a lot of prices that needed to be paid as a result, which created a lot of havoc in the early 90s. Now, this is kind of a thread. It's interesting because this kind of goes hand in hand with him and George, because they actually, Prince is nodding. He's like, yeah. He goes, it was for quite a few, actually. But we made more of the headlines because we were really standing up to the corporation, to the record companies. He's saying that you can't be afraid to fight for your art, to fight for your vision. You have to be true. You have to stand up for yourself, and you have to stand up for what you fight for, your beliefs, your art, your intellectual property, because that is yours. That is your creation. That is your birthing. That's your babies, per se. He refused to be a slave. That's how he felt. And so he took the reins and went with it, and was able to set a precedent for artists to stand up for themselves, and to stand up and get more creative control and get more rights. He's really he's not really thrilled with streaming and YouTube content. He's not very happy with that. He's saying that he doesn't agree with all of this, because it's minimizing the art. It's making it too, in a way, too accessible. He's saying he really liked having the control. He really liked having the reins and the way to release it and distribute it, because he's saying that the way that these deals are being made with with streaming companies and in YouTube, just streaming companies and downloading, things like that. He's saying that the compression, the sounds, the way that it's supposed to sound isn't necessarily how it was formulated or created. Because especially with some streaming services, I gotta be careful with what I name. With some streaming services, it's compressed and it's not gonna sound as good as when the artist is able to have either themselves or their team of engineers, mixers, whoever, producers, whatever, able to go in and make it sound the way that they're envisioning it. He said that it's well, first of all, he goes, a lot of these artists are not getting compensated. He's like, you should get compensated for your art. He's like, I'm not saying that you need to charge an extravagant amount, but you need to be compensated for your work. He's saying that, it's the same game with these streaming services. They're similar to the record companies. You're at their mercy, and they want their cut bigger than the artist. And he's like, he goes, I just see him shaking his head. Like, no. He's like, these artists need to get out there and start fighting again. They're getting robbed. They're getting cheated. And the art is not sounding as true to form as it should sound. He just has big problems all around with that. He's not liking. He's really saying that he's not very happy. He was very he really had he was very on his terms with how he wanted to release his work. And he's not very happy with how things are being released. He didn't necessarily want certain things released that are being released. There's something going on. It may still be in the process of being talked about by his estate or legally or something. But there's something going on where he's like, do not release those. It's like he has a vault of stuff, of like recordings that were unfinished or things that he didn't necessarily want released. And somebody around his team, maybe talking to his estate or somebody legal, and he's really not happy about that. He's really wanting that to be shut down. His thought process is, what he's saying is that he really, if he didn't release it, he doesn't want it out. And he doesn't want all these remasters and all these re-releases and all the... He's like, what I put out, and that is what I'm happy with. That is the only thing that should be roaming around, is what I have released. Nothing more. There's a reason that stuff's in a vault. There's a reason those things were not finished or weren't released. He's not very happy about. There's something going on where somebody's wanting to release something, and he's really not wanting that. And he's saying, leave my discarded things and things that are not released alone. Focus on and enjoy what I put out there, because that's what I was happy with. That's the finished results. That's the art. That's what I'm happy with. So he's really, his main message right now is for artists to stand up and making sure that their art and their work, their intellectual property, is being credited the way it needs to be credited. It's being released properly and the way it needs to be released, not compressed anymore, not modified or edited, things like that. And to have a fair compensation. We're going back into the slave territory with the record companies, is really what he's really saying. And these artists need to start stepping up and fighting and getting a good deal and making sure that everything is on the up and up. That's really what he's got to say right now. So we're going to leave it at that. As always, thank you as always, Prince, for coming through and talking. And as always, if you have any questions, you want to book a reading, things like that, all that jazz, email me at intuitivelissa.com and I will get back to you. And I'm sure we'll have another chat with Prince soon, but that is it with him for now. So I will say love and light to y'all and talk to y'all soon.